So, 20th Century Women. This is the latest film from Mike Mills, who previously made Thumbsucker and Beginners, which was a while ago, like 2010, for which Christopher Plummer won his Oscar. And that was all about his dad, and this one's all about his mum. So the plot is, during the summer of 1979, a Santa Barbara single mum and boarding house landlord, played by Annette Bening, decides the best way she can parent her teenage son, Lucas Zaid Zuman, what an awesome name, is to enlist her young tenants, a quirky punk photographer, Greta Gerwig, a mellow handyman, Billy Crudup, and her son's shrewd best friend, Elle Fanning, to serve as role models in a changing world. And here is a clip of Annette Bening and her son discussing heartbreak after he's had a bit of a tete-a-tete with Elle Fanning.
Stop.
What?
Thinking that you know everything that's going on.
No, I don't. I just think that, having your heart broken is a tremendous way to learn about the world. Okay.
Do you think you're happy? Like, as happy as you thought you'd be when you were my age?
Seriously? You don't ask people questions like that.
You're my mom.
Especially your mom. Look, wondering if you're happy, it's a great shortcut to just being depressed. Give me that.
So I thought this was great. I really liked it.
It looks very likable from the trailer.
I think from the trailer and that blurb, it suggests a certain kind of movie, of a sort of quirky, kind of mid-noughties indie movie. There are going to be some acoustic guitar moments. They're going to learn some lessons.
Family's going to shout at each other, but in the end, they'll find out they really love each other.
Exactly. And it is much more complicated and nuanced and involving than that. It's a far more true-to-life tale than the trailer suggests. And the thing it reminded me of most was the graphic novel Fun Home by Alison Bechdel and Persepolis. Those kind of stories about authors looking at their childhood and particularly looking at their parents with the sort of wisdom of time and the way you sort of view your parents in a certain way as a kid, and then only when you reach adulthood you sort of think back to your memories and then you sort of realize what your parents were going through at the time. And like those graphic novels, it is like a series of vignettes, but it all hangs together because the characters and the performances are so charming that it's just cool to hang out with these characters, and it sets up this very laconic hangout vibe early on, and it's just, you just kind of wallow in the movie. It is like 2 hours long, and it has no car chases. It's a very slow movie. It's a good afternoon film.
Despite having a man who works with cars, Billy Crudup.
Yeah.
But he doesn't chase
it
him.
It keeps on teasing a car chase the whole movie, but it never happens. And the characters are really great. That's my point, and I will not expand upon that. Annette Bening is always really good, and I feel that just because there aren't that many roles for women in their 50s, she's like got this great role and she's like running with it. And again, the trailer suggests like sort of crazy hippie mom raises kid, but it's much more nuanced than that. And she does this amazing job of being stoic and vulnerable at the same time. And there's loads of gear shifts in her performance, but the actual writing is very day to day. It's a movie where there's no huge arguments or people yelling at each other, but it has that sort of thing where you can really hurt someone's feelings without trying to, and big emotional
just like life.
Just like life, and big emotional moments happen just in daily conversations, like they do. And like it's the sort of thing I feel like biopics really stumble into, where a person is not the summation of the most seismic events in their life. It's all the little bits.
Yeah.
And it really captures that kind of minutiae of life really well. And the relationships it depicts aren't unconventional, but they are under-documented in movies. And I really liked his relationship with the Elle Fanning character, because he's got this sort of, he's in love with her, and
who's he? The son?
The son, sorry. He's in love with her, and she doesn't feel the same way about him. And she doesn't feel the same way about him for the whole movie. And, sometimes you just like somebody and they don't like you back, and that's life. And I liked how it didn't fall into the kind of shallow reading of, like, men and women can't be friends.
Yeah.
They can be. I'm looking at you, Harry Met Sally. Bad message of that movie. And Greta Gerwig is also brilliant. I kind of am slightly in love with her, so I feel I'm maybe blinded by how awesome she is.
She's very cool.
She's very cool. And again, she's the cool photographer character, but there's an interesting thing in the movie where it's like a coming of age story isn't what it really is, and it's all about how you never really come of age. You only just become less naive, but that doesn't mean you become more wise. And so all the characters are going through their various stuff, and they're all various ages. They're all different types of 20th century women, but none of them really know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And it's kind of refreshingly complex, and it offers no easy resolutions or morals to the story. And it's not like at the end of the movie you feel like you've learned something. It's just you've captured this bit of moment in time. Occasionally, there are certain stylistic tricks that Mike Mills uses, which are a little twee. Like Beginners was a bit like that, and I think he's like matured a bit as a filmmaker, and he doesn't lean on it so much. But I think because the movie is so laconic and feels so authentic, when they have these like very stylized moments, it is a bit at odds with the actual tone of the film. And there's also this quite overused score music, which is a bit invasive, and it's a bit like trying to impose a tone on the film, which it doesn't really need to do.
Is it like a sort of flamenco guitar riff? It's like doodle-doo.
Yeah, every time anyone looks at somebody, that plays. No, it's this all like general wave of sound to just general melancholy and what have you.
There's a tuba starts going. Bop, bop, bop,
Exactly,
bop,
yeah.
Every time like the fattest character walks into the room.
Yeah, that's the one. But I wish they hadn't, like, in a way it doesn't really need score music because the source music's really great, because Greta Gerwig is into cool music and they play a lot of Talking Heads, and the Talking Heads is a brilliant band. So in a way I was just like, dump this composer, just shout out for more David Byrne royalties.
Yeah.
And the movie would have been better. But it's in a way like the flaws in the movie are like kind of very forgivable because it's all so sincere, and it's obviously one man's relationship with his mum, and everything is so heartfelt that any kind of missteps stylistically don't really matter, and it's so brilliantly performed by all the actors, it just kind of sweeps you along. It's a very thoughtful film, and I think the lack of narrative convenience means you work a little harder as an audience member, and then makes the whole thing just all the richer. So I would heartily recommend it.
Danny, you saw this movie with your mother.
And
did it illuminate things in your relationship? Did you come out
we
crying?
were both
each other?
crying, we were clutching each other, we had to be removed because we were there for 40 minutes and the next showing had started playing.
Yeah,
and they
you
were
had
like,
to
"You
be forcibly removed by a member of the cinema and his mother.
His mother, she was there too. They dragged us out, and then we all got a cup of tea together and talked about life, and you know how she's trying to do the best for me and I want the best for her, and what does it all mean, you know? We're like connected, you know, you can never, like, there's a physical connection in birth, but then that's severed, but like spiritually, man,
The umbilical cord is never severed spiritually.
the spiritual cord is forever present.
Yeah, and
Even
I've
in
actually
death.
got another umbilical cord to my dad as well, a spiritual one as well.
What?
That's also didn't even exist ever physically, but spiritually it exists.
So take your mum to see 20th Century Woman. Take your mum.
Unless you are a mum, in which case
Take your son.
Take your son.
If you don't have a son, dress up your daughter as a son.
If you don't have a son, make a son, and then take your son to see 20th Century Women.
My favourite film stars Bridget Bardot. She's the queen, but she wants to be in radio. So she starts a podcast with her friends, and the terrorists try to stop her, but she beats them in the end.